taking that on board. So now we have Feathershaw, Nick Vassar, Richard Barnacle and Megan Barnacle for Save Our Venues. That's item 12 today. Welcome, good morning.
Kia ora. Atu Māori e koutou no te poti o haungari o tautahi tuku kaike nai nei raro I te maro kaitahu, but I'm actually of Ngāti Mani Poto descent. Ko Nick here, ko Rich, rawa ko Meg, Tina, they're from Space Academy. Nick and I are from Darkroom. And we're part of an umbrella advocacy organisation that's nationwide, Save Our Venues as well. So we're neighbours across the road from each other on St Asaph Street. You probably remember us from December 2022 when we first brought our concerns to you when we found out townhouses were being built immediately next to us. We returned again in April last year when you voted to continue to look into managing noise and mixed-use environments in the central city. You may remember on those occasions we were joined by Kendra from 12 Bar, our other neighbouring venue, who very sadly closed their doors for good around this time last year. Their building that they were in is still for lease 1 year on. Largely, we're here today to acknowledge the huge mahi of the noise program team, the urban regeneration team, our elected representatives, and everybody else involved, acknowledging there has been a bunch of discussion and work on this already. We really do want to find solutions for businesses and communities like ours to be able to exist harmoniously with new residents. So we'd like to give an update from our end today, as those first sort of townhouses, 18 of them right next door to Space Academy, are now complete, and a number of these are now occupied. Some are owner-occupied, some are tenanted to renters, and some are currently being used as Airbnbs. There has already been some feedback and interactions with our new neighbours. Some has been positive, but there has also been some interactions which indicate there is some tension, as we predicted would be the case. So I'm going to hand over to Rich now from Space Academy, who'll talk a bit about some of that feedback they're getting, remembering they're the venue that is immediately next door, separated by a small driveway and a wee fence between their space and these 18 new houses.
Tēnā koutou. So we now have maybe like half of the townhouses next to us are occupied. We've met a bunch of the people staying there and have had some really good interactions. We know of at least one household that moved there to be near the cluster of music venues. We're doing our best to operate with best practice at all times to mitigate any issues, and we're attempting to keep comms open with our new neighbours and build those relationships. While attempting best practice, we don't have 100k or anything near it to put towards the best practice soundproofing and management that the acoustic reports would suggest we need. And while we're not aware of any formal complaints yet, we have received a couple of pieces of feedback that are concerning for the ongoing relationships and certainty of tenure. So one afternoon, someone anonymously yelled over the fence that we better not be doing music again tonight, or they'll call the sound police. Another night, received an email asking if we could be quiet. Thankfully, that night we received it not long before the end of the gig. And so despite doing our best to build the relationships with our new neighbours, as a bunch of them are Airbnbs, we can have a whole new set of people living next to us any night of the week, which only adds to the uncertainty that we already have without the protections in place that council staff have been working on. So a few months in, having some neighbours there, our feeling of uncertainty and precariousness remains. It feels that coexisting is entirely possible, but we still need the work that's been identified to be done, both for our current situation, but also for the wider ecosystem and the future of music venues and the industry in the city. We look forward to hopefully meeting more of our neighbours this Sunday at our first formal meet and greet, and we're grateful for and look forward to our continued work with you all. Tēnā koutou.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, so our first Meet Your Neighbours event, which is something we suggested in previous discussions that is being actioned, where we invite those new folks living in those new townhouses and other residential developments, older and new and nearby as well, can come down and meet us on Sunday. We'll have some pizza and a chat, and we'll have some representatives from the noise team and urban regen team there as well. So we want to remind you that the ongoing response to this situation is still urgent, and we need specific and immediate focus to be on our live, original, ticketed music venues. These first 18 townhouses are complete, and there will no doubt be further residential developments in our area. There are another 11 townhouses indicated for the space immediately between Darkroom and what was 12 Bar. No doubt more in the works as well. The noise, the sound coming from our businesses, that's intentional sound. It's curated, it's creative, it's artistic, it's a contribution to the vibrancy and culture and nighttime economy of our city. It's not industrial noise, it's a byproduct of another business activity. As identified in the agenda, as you'll look into it in item 12 today at 12.4.14, we agree that the scope of acoustic assessments should at least initially focus on our southeast area of the city as the priority, as our area is identified as having greatest potential for tension between businesses and residents. We acknowledge there is a cost involved with these acoustic reports and another huge cost involved with implementing all of the suggested mitigations. But even just having this information as a starting point is very helpful, and even being able to act on just some of those suggested mitigations is a step in the right direction in ensuring the future of such important creative community spaces. The idea for potential grants to improve soundproofing is a great idea, and we know that other cities have successfully implemented such grant systems. The continued rollout of a variety of non-regulatory initiatives are essential to ensure our survival through to next year, through to 2026 and beyond, when policy level change may be able to be implemented. It's hard to have certainty taking gig bookings for 4, 5, 6 months down the track, knowing that noise complaints on those nights could shut those gigs down, or worse, that our venues may close for good before those dates even arrive for those bookings. It's hard opening our doors. We have a gig tonight, not knowing whether or not there could be a complaint that could shut down tonight's event. It's hard to have certainty in whether or not to sign on to another multi-year commercial lease for the buildings we occupy. We're renters, we don't own our spaces, but we've been there for over a decade now, for almost a decade now, and our leases are 3 to 5 years long. We need certainty to know we can sign on for another tenure. We ask that our elected representatives opt for a continued focus on live music, on ticketed live original small venues like ours. People are living right next door to us right now. The tensions are already there. This is urgent. This is a priority. We're really excited to keep working with you, and we're grateful for the work that's happened so far. We love the city. We choose to live here. We don't choose to run away to Wellington or other artsy cities. We want to stay here and continue to make this a more modern, livable, and vibrant community. So thank you so much for talking with us today. I guess we've got time for questions.
We do have time for a couple of questions. Thanks very much. Councillor Barber.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for your investment in our city and the vibrancy of it. I think I told you before, my son used to play at the Darkroom and really appreciated that. I just wonder if you can just talk a little bit about the hours that you operate and when there's likely to be sounds that are going to bother people.
So for Darkroom, generally Wednesday to Saturday nights. Wednesday, Thursdays, we'll normally open 7 or 8 p.m. And while we have a 2 a.m. liquor license, we put in our booking agreement with the bands that on Sunday to Thursday nights, music must be wrapped up by midnight. That's a self-imposed thing we've actioned as business owners to help with these relationships and get ahead of a potential problem before it is a problem. And then on Friday and Saturday nights, our booking agreement says for music to wrap up by 12:45 a.m. But again, we are technically, we hold a liquor license until 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, we're similar. We're licensed to 1 a.m. and in our booking agreement, we also have midnight. All music must be wrapped, and we aim for earlier than that, certainly in the midweek and Sundays and things.
Seems reasonable. And just, can you give us a quantum of what it would require to mitigate sounds that are going to bother people, per venue?
So there has been a pilot acoustic assessment report already carried out. The pilot building was Space Academy on St. Asser Street. They came in, filled that with pink noise, figured out where is the noise escaping, through windows, through doors, through the ceiling, and identified a bunch of options that could be carried out for improving that building, remembering we're pretty broke and we also rent our buildings. And it was to the tune of well over $100,000. Was it $140,000
For one venue.
For one venue.
Wow.
And we do acknowledge the acoustic assessment report, just to get that done, is around $6,000 as well. So it's a lot of money, but even being able to act on some of those suggestions to show that we're doing some to stop the the sound escaping out, just as much as we expect those new builds to be well insulated and triple glazed or whatever else.
Let's go, Councillor Johansson.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Just mindful of the fact that we're building a new stadium that's like has the opportunity to put in local activation. The idea of looking at using the stadium as a place where live music could happen outside of the events, or possibly even before or after, is that something that would be a kind of sensible thing to investigate? E.g., it would be a space that we own as a city, be a space that's not being used for a lot of time during the year, that we could possibly put local live music venues into, that has more permissive noise controls.
Well, that might be something they just want to think about and get back to us. Be a bit difficult to answer on the spot. Thank you.
Well, no, because we're going to have bars and some
Councillor
restaurants in there,
Harrison-Hunt.
right?
Perhaps another discussion, but we have indicated we're open to exploring all options, and in some conversations that we've had with our Save Our Venues advocate and council staff and things, we have indicated that we would be open to moving if council paid to move us, if yeah, there's a nice spot on Gloucester Street in the Performing Arts Precinct, we'll take that if you bankroll it. Take Space Academy with us as well, though.
Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora.
You touched on a grant or something within your kōrero just then. Can you just elaborate a bit more?
So when you get to item 12 on the agenda today, there's some text in there pertaining to conversations that have happened with Save Our Venues.
Yep.
And in that, Taylor, our advocate, has referenced some other examples, and some still continuing, some not anymore, but in the likes of Sydney and Melbourne, that were music and nightlife hospitality kind of specific. Then there are also some examples of housing initiatives, I think, in the likes of Wellington and things as well, where there have been maybe contestable grants you can apply for, and if you meet the criteria, you can get some money towards. It's also an historic example. I'm from Wotipoti, Dunedin. We had a venue called Art Cafe that sadly closed in around 2007 due to noise complaints. But I believe it was the Otago Regional Council. There was a community grant that helped them to soundproof their space as well. So there are examples in our country, and then examples in Australia and other countries around the world,
Yeah,
and
we have
they are
contestable
mentioned in
grants.
there as
Does
some
staff
examples.
have that? Does staff have that?
We have contestable grants here, but the level at which you're needing is probably a bit beyond, possibly beyond us. I don't know. But thank you very much for coming in and for the work that you're doing.
Kia ora to our other hospo whānau.
Right.